Hare Krishna. This video is about the death at Ratha Yatra. Is it a tragedy or is it divine destiny? So my dear friends, today we pause to reflect on something that has shaken us. For some people, it's shaken them deeply. There were deaths at the Ratha Yatra festival in Puri. And some people are asking, how can this happen in front of Jagannath? Why does the Lord allow it to happen? Where is God's mercy in such tragedy? So many people are commenting on different YouTube videos. So let's hold that grief with respect. Let's not minimize anyone's sorrow, but let's also look at this question through the lens of the Vedic knowledge and wisdom that we have. So this is an opportunity for us to apply scripture in a practical way and practical understanding. Dying before the Lord is certainly perfection. But let me tell you a story about Narada Muni. When Narada was traveling the three worlds, this has different versions of the story. So when Narada was walking, he found three different households. So each household asked blessings for their child. So the first visitation was a Brahmana's son. He visited a Brahmana's house, Muniputra. So when he first met the pious Brahmana, the Brahmana asked, Narada, please bless my son. And Narada Muni looked at the child. See, when Narada looks, he looks past, present, and future. And he said, may your son die soon. He can die, no problem. And the Brahmana was shocked. He was grief-stricken. He was like, why would you curse my innocent boy? And Narada explained, look, your son, he's very pure. He has accumulated great spiritual merit. In fact, he's born as a Brahmana child. And if he dies now, he will go directly to heaven and avoid the contamination of worldly life. If he lives long, there are more possibilities of entangling himself. So early death in his case is actually liberation. Then Narada next came to the king's son. So he said, may you have a long life. He blessed him. And the king was very happy. And he's like, oh, delighted. He was, Narada was like, softly he added, he has actually very little pious credit. He's born as a king's child, but if he dies now, there's no good credits left. So he will go down to lower realms. Let him live a long life so he has time to perform good deeds and purify himself. So the king actually fell silent, realizing the depth of the sage's words. So these incidents are also opportunity for us to look into the depth. Then the third section of the story, the butcher's son. Narada Muni visited a butcher. And the butcher, he bowed and he pleaded, please bless my son. And Narada Muni looked at the boy, past, present, future, and he said, may he never die. And the butcher was very confused. He said, is this a blessing? Narada Muni explained, your son has pretty messed up karma. He's born in a butcher's family. He's going to continue killing animals. He's going to accumulate more sins already added to what he has committed in previous births. So if he dies now, he will be born in not very good conditions, hellish conditions. And if he continues in this body, he'll exhaust the karma here. So he may be liberated later. So the moral of this story, Narada's blessings seemed strange. Each situation seems strange. Again, like I said, there are different versions of this story. Even cruel on the surface, but they were perfect for each soul. So a great sage like Narada can see through. So for the Brahmana, the child was pure. So death was a gateway to heaven. How can you reach heaven if you don't leave this body? For the sinful prince, life was a chance to gain merit. So it's another case. For the butcher's son, a long life was a chance for him to burn karma without rebirth in hell. So every situation is different. We cannot see what's around the corner. So our tradition, our Vedic tradition, Sanatana Dharma, teaches us that death is not simply good or bad. It's the door to next destination. So in Bhagavad Gita, there's a verse, Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajetante kalevaram. Whatever one is remembering at the time of death, the person attains that. So life and death are connected. So the truly wise person, they don't simply ask for long life, but for a good life and auspicious death. Now, we are actually looking at the situation of these individuals who left their body during Ratha Yatra. So what is the theme here? Let's live in such a way that our death becomes a gateway to the divine. So let us pray that, O Lord Jagannath, O Lord of the universe, grant me a pure heart so that living or dying, I may always be yours. So that's the bigger picture. So let's get back to the honoring the grief without dismissing it. First, let's be clear. Grief is natural, is necessary. It's a healthy part of human existence. If someone lost a family member, especially on a Ratha Yatra day, that family feels raw wound, pain, and we don't dismiss that. Krishna himself acknowledges the pain of leaving the body. He says that the wise, they lament neither for living nor the dead. Bhagavad Gita 2:11. He kaumaram yauvanam jara praptir dhiras tatra na muhyati. So the body, embodied soul, continuously passes in this body. Like we were a child, and then we become youth, and then we become old, and then at death we have to leave this body. At one point, everybody has to leave. And the wise, they're not deluded by this. See, Krishna does not say here that there is no pain. He says that the wise see through it. The wise don't stay stuck in lamentation. For example, in 2:11, when Krishna says, Anusochanti Pandita, the word Anusochanti, right, means it's a grieving repeatedly, constantly lamenting without end. Wise, they feel grief. Now that we don't feel grief, it's necessary, but they don't remain drowned in it forever. They get a bigger context to it. They accept and move forward with a spiritual vision, not just material vision of forget. So there is a higher vision of death when we speak about Vedic culture. So what about dying in front of Lord Jagannath? Our tradition, Sanatan Dharma, Vedic tradition, says that it's not simply how we live, but how and where we die. That also shapes our destiny, the soul's destiny. Like we saw in the story of Narada Muni meeting these three individuals, it's not just the death, it's the living itself that matters. So it's supremely auspicious departure to live in the presence of all the devotees in Ratha Yatra festival. Remember the example of Kurukshetra. In Mahabharata, Krishna purposefully brought everybody to the battlefield of Kurukshetra so that the countless number of souls, whether they were Kauravas or Pandavas, they can all die hearing the holy names, being in the holy land. Even though there were warriors mixed with mixed motives, they were warriors who were pure and there were others. So when there's a quote, let me see. There's actually Bhagavad Gita quote 14:11. Sarvadvareshu dehesmin prakasha upajayate. So when all the gates of the body are illumined by knowledge, then we can see the Supreme. So it's extremely auspicious to have an opportunity like to die in the Kurukshetra or to die in Ratha Yatra. Even those who have died in confusion in Kurukshetra, they attained liberation by Krishna's grace. Similarly, dying before Jagannath's form, having darshan, sages crave for that. It is perfection of life, right? So our scripture speaks about dying in front of the Lord. So especially in places like pilgrimage places, it is extremely auspicious. In Padma Purana, it says, Traharer nama kirtanam tatra mrutyuhu shubhakaraha. Whenever the Lord's names are chanted, death in that place is extremely auspicious. So Lord Jagannath's Ratha Yatra is one of the holiest festivals on earth, where his holy names are chanted continuously, where his merciful glance falls upon millions, where Jagannath is on the streets. So to leave the body there is not exactly tragedy, it's deliverance. So what about lamentation? See, at death, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, whoever remembers me attains me. Krishna is actually very clear about it. So what about the family members who are left behind? Krishna addresses that also directly, right? Sochant anvashochastvam pragyavadamscha bhasashe. While wise words are speaking, you're grieving for something that's not worthy of grief. Because one persons, they don't lament dead or gone. So we may feel separation, but that anusochanti, not merely grieving the loss of the connection with the person, but going on continuously lamenting without getting that picture that this person has freed themselves from prison house of life. Na jayate mriyate kadachin. The soul is never born. It never dies. So there is actually no death for the soul. So why that endless despair, right? So again, look at that person's life, not just that they left, or what they leave us. Another important point is ahara nidra bhaya maithuna. See, the human existence is all about, let's be honest, even before tragedy, there's fear. Fear is always there. The scriptures describes as this 4 drives, right? Ahara, nidra, bhaya, maituna. So sleeping, fearing, wanting food, wanting sleep, wanting sex. Sex, food, sleep is not all the time, but fear of disease, fear of death, fear of bad news, and fear of not having shelter, fear of not having money, so fear of losing the body. So Krishna actually says that give up all this fear. Sarvadharmam parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja. So he says abandon all these fears, all these religions. Sometimes we perform religion in the mood of fear. So he says, don't fear, I'll take care. Even death is transformed in my presence, Krishna says, Jagannath says. So where is God in tragedy? I was looking at some comments where people were like, where is God? Where is God? Why do you have to go to Ratha Yatra? Why do you have to be in that crowd? He is right here. Even when tragedy strikes, what is tragedy for us? The Lord of the universe. He's witnessing, he's observing. What we see is external events, but Krishna sees the soul's journey in countless ways, sometimes shockingly, but he always has a purpose. Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram. So whoever remembers Krishna, especially at the time of death, attains him. So in the tumults of the Ratha Yatra, the crowd, the sight of Jagannath, what can be greater fortune than that? Those people who can witness such, even deaths, it's actually a sobering reminder, in fact. Let's remember that the Lord is seeing our soul's journey. Chant his holy names now. Prepare our hearts. So is death at Ratha Yatra a tragedy? Yes. For the family, the loss is real. At the same time, spiritually, it might be the greatest blessing. Let us honor the departed by praying for them. And let us also comfort the grieving by standing with them. And let us also transform our own fear of death by remembering Jagannath's promise, by remembering Krishna's promise in Bhagavad Gita 9:22. He promises, Ananyas chintayanto mam hejana paryupasate tesham abhiyuktanam yogakshemam bahamyaham. So to those who worship Krishna, to those who worship me, Krishna says, with exclusive devotion, I carry what they lack and preserve what they have. Remember Narada Muni's story. He will carry us. He will carry the soul. He will give us opportunities and situations that actually liberate us. In these moments, we also need to pray, Lord Jagannath, please give shelter to all the people who are pained. Give shelter to those who are the departed souls. Give them shelter at your lotus feet. Please give comfort to the family who have lost their loved ones. Please give them faith to the grieving family. Please awaken in us the wisdom to see life and death through your eyes, through the eyes of Bhagavad Gita, through your teachings. So, my dear friends, let's remember life is fragile. Death is certain, the only certain thing. But Krishna's mercy, Jagannath's mercy is limitless, and we need to take shelter of him now. So, without fearing, we surrender. So I will tell you one other story from our scriptures. This is from the Srimad Bhagavatam about how death can become the gateway to liberation. And it is the gateway to liberation, depending on how you live, of course. So there was a second chance story. Once there was a Brahmana. His name was Ajāmila. So in his youth, he was very pure. He had good training. He was learned. He was devoted. But one day he fell in love with a low-born woman. Back then, there was no pornography, but he watched a woman who was living sinfully. Then he also fell down and he started cheating and stealing, and he started maintaining this prostitute. I mean, back then, what he did today, if people did it, they would be considered loyal. But he completely forgot God. That was a complete disaster for him. And then Ajāmila had one young son, and he named that boy Narayana. That's Jagannath's another name. And he loved this boy so dearly. Always he was calling, Narayan, Narayan, where are you? And he wasn't thinking of Krishna or the Lord. He was thinking of the boy. So years passed, and when Ajāmila was old and dying, he saw these terrifying Yamadutas. Because he had lived a sinful life, then the Yamadutas, they came to drag him to hell. And they wanted to punish him. And he panicked. And in fear, the bhaya aspect, right? Very fearfully, he cried out. What did he cry out? Narayana! And he was actually calling his son. And then there was another entrance of the Vishnudutas. The call of the holy name, one holy name, just one holy name, just brought Vishnu's servants. And then the Vishnudutas who stopped the Yamadutas, they declared, what did they declare? Hari Nama Sankirtane Anudina Malpage Naraka Bayagalunte. So Ajāmila was listening to this conversation. Vishnudutas are like, he chanted one holy name purely, and then he is supposed to come with us. So immediately Ajāmila, he realized his mistakes and he found that second chance. He came to Haridwar. He started to completely dedicate himself to Lord Narayan, and he understood that, the near-death experience helped him to reconnect with his spiritual life, spiritual world. And then he started living a life so well that later on Vishnudutas came and took him back to the spiritual world. So again, death is actually a gateway for us to, death is like an exam. It can be terrible if we're unprepared, right? But for one who remembers God, even accidentally, it becomes a gateway to liberation. And Bhagavad Gita confirms that. Antakale chamameva smaran mukta kalevaram. Bhagavad Gita, 8th chapter, Krishna says, at death, whoever remembers me, Krishna says, then they attain me alone. And attaining Krishna is the greatest achievement. So Ajāmila's story also shows us that even a sinful life can be redeemed by remembering Krishna at the last moment by chanting the holy name. So death is not the end. It's actually a chance to go back home, back to Krishna, back to Godhead. So may we all prepare for that moment, because it's coming. It's either today or tomorrow or the day after. We're getting closer every day, every hour. We're coming closer to death. We're meeting death. So may we chant the holy names of the Lord now, so that when death comes, it becomes our entrance into his eternal service. So let's prepare for the exams. So my dear friends, in conclusion, let us remember a profound lesson. For one who lives with dharma, lives by truth and devotion, both life and death are both auspicious. Jīvo maro. Jīvo maro. Whether living or dying, we are always safe in God's hands. Rather than fearing death, let us prepare for death. Let us fear forgetting the Lord and the Lord's plans. Let us prepare our hearts so that whenever it is coming, whenever the final moment comes, it becomes our entrance into his eternal shelter. May we live well. May we die well. May we always belong to him, just as he says, Mamaivamsho jivaloke jiva bhuta sanatana. We belong to the Lord. He's our eternal Father. And Krishna belongs to us. Jagannath belongs to us. So take care. May everybody be blessed by the mercy of Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, and Sudarshan Chakra. Happy Ratha Yatra festivals. Hare Krishna, and thank you for watching this video. Do let me know in the comments below. What did you like about this video? What would you like to hear next? And see you in the next video. Hare Krishna.